A former Department of Justice official by the name of Mary McCord has penned an op-ed for NBC News where she talked about the fact that there is a good chance that Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, who's looking into Trump's attempts to overturn the election, he may be using Mike Pence to charge Donald Trump with a, as they call it, obscure law, so you can hit him with even more criminal charges. Let me read this. According to Mary McCord. Again, this is a former Justice Department official. She knows what the hell she's talking about. Here's what she said. The U.S. Code makes it a crime to solicit any other person to engage in conduct that is a felony under federal law involving the use, attempted use, or threatened use of physical force against a person. In other words, a federal felony that is a crime of violence. Under this statute, the government must prove the defendant intended the person to commit a crime of violence and that the defendant, under circumstances strongly corroborative of that intent, solicited, commanded, induced, or otherwise endeavored to persuade the other person to engage in such conduct. Whew. So basically, did Trump use the threat of force to try to convince Mike Pence to commit a felony? Because if he did, then that is another pretty serious criminal charge you can hit Donald Trump with, on top of everything else you're probably already going to hit him with. But did that happen? When you look at the evidence, kind of seems like it did. And Mary McCord, of course, does a wonderful job of laying out all this evidence, not just based on what we know, but also based on what Mike Pence said in his own book. So Pence has already talked about all these things that happened. Specifically, on January 4th, 2021, 2 days, of course, before the Capitol riot, there was a meeting in the Oval Office in which Trump, Pence, and lawyer John Eastman, among others, were on hand to debate whether Pence could refuse to accept the certification of the election. Pence writes about it in his book, in which he explains that even Eastman acknowledged it wouldn't make it through the Supreme Court. But in Georgia that night, Trump continued public pressure on Pence, saying, quote, "I hope Mike Pence comes through for us." He called Pence a great vice president, but, quote, "Of course, if he doesn't come through, I won't like him quite as much." The next day, Trump tweeted, quote, "The vice president has the power to reject fraudulently chosen electors." And it's important to remember that even after Trump had been told by his own lawyer, John Eastman, that Pence didn't have that authority, Trump still tweeted it out in an attempt to pressure Mike Pence. There's more. According to Pence's book, quote, Trump told him, "These people cheated and you want to play by Marquis of Queensberry rules. Hundreds of thousands are going to hate your guts." That's one of those things. Like that, even though it's a threat of the people will hate you, that could, in the eyes of the law, be construed as a threat. Possibly even a threat of violence, which would fall under this criminal category. Trump continues. He tweeted this out, actually, Trump did. "Send them back to the States and we win. Do it, Mike. This is a time for extreme courage." Pence also says in his book that after that happened, Trump called him a wimp and another word that is not going to say here. But then Trump told the crowd at the Ellipse on January 6th, "I hope Mike is going to do the right thing, because if Mike Pence does the right thing, we win the election. He has the absolute right to do it." And then, of course, Trump told his Twitter followers shortly after that Mike Pence had abandoned them. The Capitol riot happened. They erected a gallows. They went around chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." So we know the threat of violence against Mike Pence existed. Hang Mike Pence is pretty clear. And you got a gallows. You built it right there. I don't know why nobody stepped in to stop that from happening. But anyway, you erected a gallows. You were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." You were looking for him. So there's your threat of violence. The question is, can you link it back to what Trump said? Now, as I pointed out, you do have the threat, they're going to hate your guts. So it will mostly come down to statements like that. Does that rise to the level of actually being a threat of violence? If Jack Smith is able to prove that, yes, that does rise to that level, then he could easily hit Donald Trump with these charges. McCord also mentions, there is testimony from top White House aides who confirm the account, including Mark Meadows. So, When you've got everybody else that's talked to the special prosecutor that's basically said, like, yeah, Mike Pence was in danger. Mike Pence was being threatened. Kind of opens the door for even more criminal charges. If, of course, there's another if, not just that you determine that there was a threat of violence, but you also have to determine that what Trump was asking Pence to do was in fact a felony, which fraud against the government is likely the charge. That would be the most easy and obvious one. So if you can prove that, then yes, you meet all the criteria to hit him with this new crime. And of course, if you meet those criteria, then you also have the long list of other crimes you can hit him with for actually trying to overturn the election results. But hey, at this point, everything you can hit him with, go ahead and do it. Mike Pence talked to the special prosecutor, the grand jury last week. Mark Meadows has been talking. Everybody's had to talk because Trump has lost every single legal challenge to prevent them from talking. So there could be some very interesting things on the horizon. There could be even more surprise charges that we're not already thinking about. But I imagine when it's all said and done, there's going to be a hefty amount of criminal charges coming against Donald Trump hard and fast. And hopefully they don't dismiss any of these little ones and say, it's not worth it. No, this is the big time. This is the big leagues. This is the one chance. If you've got it, get it, and charge him with it. Don't let anything fall by the wayside. Don't be like, well, it's not worth pursuing that. Don't do that. Hit him with everything you got. That may be the only way to get this man to finally face justice. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share. But again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.